Hi, welcome to Devlog 6 for Furcifer's Fungeon. Furcifer's Fungeon is an action roguelite with precise control over spells to bounce your enemies into each other. It starts to look more and more like a pinball machine, and we are not sure how to feel about that. We wanted to replace the transparent grass with literally anything else. We decided to just take all the things and go with a space theme for the first location.
And done. Nah, the stars in the background turned out to be too dark and inconsistent on their own. So we wanted a star nebula, like these pictures Hubble took, but with motion. We tried around with the particle technique we implemented last time, and it turned out kinda mesmerizing, but it was too much movement. After that, we played around with just texture scrolling. I found some cool cloud brushes and got to work with the drawing tablet. We decided to color the image, scroll it over a downscaled version of itself, and even multiply their color. And that worked out really nicely. After that, we also added stars for some sharper details. And now we have a beautiful galaxy. And I'm like...
It's beautiful. I've looked at this for
788
hours now.
I also started to draw some space objects. Here is a planet, a very, very happy meteor, a space shuttle, and a UFO piloted by a snack. We are unsure whether we should go with a painted style or more of a pixel art one for these objects. Maybe you guys have a favorite. These objects would appear in map events after a certain time. You might have to dodge a passing asteroid or something like that.
We wanted to do a UI rework for a while now and decided to just go for it. We are unsure what happened, but our UI now is really intrinsic. The spells are now placed onto these bumpers. We have one for the left mouse button spell, one for the right button, and one for the dash. When a spell is used, the icon becomes darker. However, if you activate the bumper, it refreshes the spell once per turn. The bumper's outer ring shows whether the refresh is still available. This allows us to have the UI in the middle of the screen, where you can see it and directly interact with it. This is really highly experimental and will need a lot of testing, but it seems to work quite well. We put a rage bar and a health bar on the top left as a fourth bumper. Rage, or Evil Moon Rage Shiny Mode, is the buff that makes you burst out pink stars and also gives you more damage and stats. You gain rage by killing enemies and some extra when you do it with a dash. And whenever you are fully raged, you will evade the next hit you would take and start rage mode. So we added a shield at the end of the rage bar to signal that. The player also gets some rage when he throws an enemy against the rage bar.
Lastly, we replaced the round clock with a bar that has a segment for each beat of the turn. The segments get their color by sampling a gradient. They are 9 patch rects inside an HBox container that get instanced at runtime. We need to do this because the number of beats is variable now. More about that later. Also, the clouds flash when the new round starts.
It starts to look like a pinball machine, but it sounds like nothing, actually. Well, when you think about it, it plays in space. And there is no medium to transmit sound, so that's pretty accurate, right? But I guess realism is no excuse in a game like this. So somehow we needed to trick this magic box of plastic into making noise. We had collected a bunch of sound packs over the last months. It turned out to be quite headache-inducing to hear through them all. It is a nice starting point, but we will likely need to make our own sound effects at some point in the future. To actually play them, we relied on audio stream player nodes. We didn't want to put a huge amount of them into each enemy scene, so we kept a pool of 10 sound players that are managed by a global sound singleton. It will play sounds on demand. It even checks whether a sound file was already played that frame and doesn't play it multiple times. Regarding background music, we have this awesome track by Antimatter Mistress, but that's about it. We tried around with 3 tracks we could find and decided that our game is already pretty trance-inducing and needs trance-inducing music. We found a synthwave music pack by Void1. Yeah, that's where we decided to sync our game to the beat. We thought this would improve the flow even more, but who would have thought? It's quite tricky to do.
We started by finding out the beat per minute of the tracks we use. Then we look up where the music player stands in each frame, which is harder than it seems at first. We round the time of a turn to the nearest beat. The enemies should act in sync with the beat, and their pattern was already on a global clock. However, the number of beats that fit into an 8-second turn can now vary, so we had to change the interface towards the length of a single round. Now enemies only start or finish casts to the beat, and this little bee changes direction, because that's its favorite dance. Projectiles also follow the beat. We are now on a slippery slope to becoming a rhythm game, but we think it is best for us to have some rhythmic element for the flow, but not overdo it. It turns out playing to the beat is fun, but we do not have to enforce it with a specific mechanic. We hope rhythmically moving and acting enemies improve the flow and look cute. Also, it may help the player to get a feel for the round.
And by the way, we made a stream for the Godot Jam, which you should definitely join. It has just started. In the stream we explain some basic Godot shaders.
And kind of acceptable is what we are going for today.
Tell us how you like the new UI and the space theme. See you in the next Devlog or tutorial.